Hey guys, so I'm going to give another update for this collective loop project that I'm doing here. And I've received more loops since the last update, so I'll kind of go through some of the things that I've done. I probably have 40 odd, maybe 50 odd loops altogether. A lot of them spread each to its own separate track. So in order to kind of keep track of what the hell's going on with all these loops, I've organized them by different categories. Drums, bass, this little glitch thing with the follow actions, stabs, leads, melodies, riffs, atmospheric stuff, effects, voice, pads and strings, and plucked instruments. And these are just some of the parts that I wanted to show you in their raw form. So some of the things that I've added, I received a straight kick that I thought sounded pretty good when layered with my original kick. That sounds pretty good, but with the layer it sounds, I think, even better. I got a one long loop with a bunch of different hi-hat patterns. These parts here weren't originally like this. What I did was I warped them to different timing, and then what I did was I copied them over to the arrange window, as you can see over here. And I did some re-editing here, just cut, copy, and paste different sections. And then I consolidated the file just by going to Edit, Consolidate, or Command J, Control J if you're on a PC. So yeah, so I just kind of put together the sections of the hi-hats that I like. So I'll just play these little separate deals. I'll play it along with the rhythm. So there's one part there. Here's another hi-hat part. That there. Got this little percussive part. And this I pretty much left straight as is. I just did a little EQing and added a little saturation. Saturation just dirties things up a little bit and adds more harmonics and things like that. So it's good to help it stand out in the mix and also not sound overly clean, which for me is not a good thing all the time. So. The claps I've changed quite a bit, running them through different effects. Overdrive, a little EQ on the overdrive, running it through a grain delay, compression, an auto filter. What I do here, I create a group so that I can run one path through the filter and one path clean. And then I just set the volumes of the separate parts. I do that kind of thing a lot. If I wanted a subtle effect, but I don't want it completely washing over the sound, and if the effect itself doesn't have a wet dry, this is kind of a way to approach that. Basically, you just highlight your effect, hit Command G to group it, and then you'll find this window here, and all you got to do is right-click and create chain, and it'll create an empty chain. Sometimes I'll create two different chains, like maybe I want the mid and high frequencies on one chain and the low frequency on another chain. So I'll drop an EQ3 or an EQ8 on each one of those. But in this case, I just wanted straight sound. And then I run an EQ at the end to EQ everything. I'll show you what the original clap sounded like. So what I did was I did some time stretching by grabbing the beginning of the sample and then grabbing the end and stretching certain parts. And as you can see with the volume, I cut the volume out of the first one, so you got the second one, a little bit of the third one, and then the last one. And the second and the last one are time stretched to give a different sound. So I took it from this clap and I'm using it completely differently. So this is the part that I've got here. And in the context of a rhythm. So I created a cool kind of percussive thing that's different, real dirty and interesting sounding. I was sent these drums here. And I may go through them further and pull little bits and pieces out of these drums. But what I did was I just grabbed, let's get to the volume here. I just grabbed this section here, it's this drum loop, and I ran it through a delay, and I EQ'd a lot of the low end out, and I ran it through a filter. And now the part sounds something like this. So in the context of everything going on here with the drums, I just kind of wanted this warmer, deeper sound from it. I was going for kind of a certain sound, and I figured I'd use that drum fill to do that. So thanks for that part. On to the bass. I've got a new bass here, but it's just straightforward, so I haven't done anything with this. Yeah, I'll probably change that. It's in there right now, and we'll figure out what I'll do with it later. Oh, I finally did something with this JT loop. What I did was I just grabbed a section that I liked, and then I did some volume edits here. But I'll show you what it sounded like before doing any of that. So I've got delay, saturation, EQ, compression. What I've done with the part is I'm just using it for this. So within the context of the song, so it's got a nice, interesting, hypnotic sound. And it's in a triplet timing, which I don't really have any other parts that have a triplet timing, so I think it'll work real well and contrast the other parts. Okay, so I got some acid lines here, and I haven't really figured out what I'm going to do with them, but I don't know if they're all acid lines, but anyway. So I'll probably grab this long note and maybe use it as like an atmospheric sort of thing, this here, before the notes change or whatever. I don't really have use for another riff, I don't think. But I think that sound might work nicely if I give it a bunch of reverb and just put it in a nice big room. It'll be a nice bed for the song to lay on. One of several, it appears. I got this dolphin effect. I really like it. I definitely want to use it, not sure where, but I think it's an interesting sound. So this is just as is. Okay, so this was a part that I don't recall where the original came from, but I basically took the part, rendered it, flattened it, and then put it into a simpler instrument. I just looped a certain section, and I wanted it to sound kind of not on time, but slightly on time at the same time. So this is a part. That's all it is. So I just EQ'd out a lot of lows, highs, saturated it, running it through a chorus, and not all the way wet though. It's about 33%. And as you see, drop the lows. One reason that I put an EQ3 on even when I've got an EQ8 is I noticed that the EQ8 will only drop the volume of a certain frequency by a certain amount. So you could still have a lot of low end that you don't want. So sometimes I will add an EQ3 if I feel it's necessary. I like this as well quite a bit. It's a really nice part. I definitely want to use it because I just like the vibe that it sets. I'm thinking I might play it with this guitar part that I tweaked, that I talked about in the last update. So obviously I'll mess about with the timing and probably cut things up to make it work, but I like the vibe of that. I think both of those parts mood-wise will do some cool stuff. And that's what I got so far. So basically the lesson here is if you got a bunch of parts, there's good reason to put things into their own groups. Like for example, I have several kind of leadish parts. And the thing is, I know that all these are probably going to take up similar frequencies. So playing them all at the same time, they're going to fight with each other. So this gives me kind of a clue of, okay, in this part of the song I should pick one riff and just let it be. And then, maybe I'll use other bits as little accents. Because I know that I'm going to have to make several movements in the song in order to get all the loops to work properly. So yeah, this makes it much easier for me to kind of pick and go, okay, I need an atmospheric sound, but I don't want to overload it with an atmospheric sound. So pick one from each section and work with that. And what I'll end up doing is I'll make scenes that'll have kind of different vibes going on, so I can see how different loops play with each other. So anyway, that's the update, and I'll be getting into the process of, now song creation, now that I've kind of dialed in the sounds for the most part in the way that I want. So that's where we're at.